Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. I'm Andrew Pappas. I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to be talking about debunking Steam algorithm myths. So, Steam's algorithm is the engine that powers visibility on the platform, but understanding how it works is often a big mystery. So today, we're going to bust some of those most common and persistent myths indie developers believe about how the algorithm functions, getting to the bottom of which signals actually matter so you can stop worrying and focus on what really does. So that's what we're going to be talking about right here today on Indie Game Movement. Hey, everybody, and we're back. And today with us, I am happy to have back on the podcast. It is Chris Zukowski. Chris, how's it going, bud? And thanks for coming back.
No, it is great to be with you, Pappas. I love being here. Love your community. I'm glad to be back.
Well, it's really an honor to have you back, and and exciting too. And you guys, for those of you who don't know Chris, which I think a majority of you do, but if you don't, it's all right. He is, the founder or creator of How to Market a Game. It's a awesome website, talks everything about, well, obviously how to market a game, lots of Steam content. I mean, just go to the site, right? Like, there's so many great resources there you have, Chris. I mean, just list off a few, because there's so many helpful things there.
Yeah, so howtomarketagame.com. I write a blog every single week. And you get that for howtomarketagame.com/free is where you sign up. And then just in your inbox, you get the weekly thing. What I do is I just do case studies. Sometimes I scrape Steam data. I'm looking at how to market a game on Steam, and that's what I focus on. And then I've got other things like I have a festival list, because the number one way to get visibility on your game is festivals. So howtomarketagame.com/festivals. Maintaining a festival list. A lot of people ask, how many wish lists should I get when I launch my Steam page? All these kind of benchmarks questions, got you covered. howtomarketagame.com/benchmarks has a list of major marketing activities and what the expected return on that is. Like, how much should it convert? How many deletes are you going to get? How many refunds are you going to get? All that stuff is right there. Kind of helps you on there. And then I've got a community at howtomarketagame.com/Discord. So really just start with howtomarketagame.com, and then I'll just point you everywhere you need to go.
Yeah, see, folks, lots of resources there. Again, I'm sure many of you know, but for those of you who don't, please check it out. So Chris is here today. We're going to have a really cool conversation. But before we get into that, it's actually been a long time. And honestly, I can't even remember what the episode number is that you were on initially, but we'll throw that in the show notes too to check that out, because there's a lot of cool conversations there. I think the initial one was about probably around email marketing, and I know that goes way back.
Oh yeah, but email's still cool, kids. I know somebody's gonna ask, but it's still cool.
So we'll throw that in the show notes. But yeah, but before we get into the conversation, Chris, I am going to put you through the Q box round again, because it has been a while, and I'm pretty sure these are the different questions we asked from long ago, but even so, I'm sure they changed. So let's get to that first. And well, I guess I got to ask, are you ready for the Q box?
Oh, drop me in. Slam me in the Q box. I'm ready. Just slam it in there.
Sorry, I wish I had a soundboard, but that will have to do. Okay. Now, first is, what's the one habit you do to keep a clear and healthy mind?
Oh man, my mind is always kind of clear. So I don't know. That's my default state. My default state is my mind is just not complicated. I'm a non-complicated man. I'm just a simple man, Pappas. So what do? I go running. I like to run, so I'll go for a run. But yeah, that's what I say. And I drink a Diet Coke.
Okay.
I don't know if that keeps me clear, but that's what I do. And eat a macaroon. Everybody should eat a macaroon.
Oh my goodness. As in coconut, correct?
Yeah, well, those little coconut macaroons.
Because sometimes they have the macarons that people confuse as macaroons. And anyways.
Yeah. Eat them both. Eat a macaroon. Eat a macaroon. Macron. Eat them both. Macron's also the president of Spain, France, right? Yeah. So all those people. Watch a good speech by Macron, eat a Macron, and a macaroon. Have a good one, guys. That's how I keep a clear mind.
Love it. All right. Name one thing that motivates you every day.
just get inspiring devs. That's what it is. I want to get you all inspired, get you pumped, get you to make lots of games, not just one. Make lots of games.
All right, awesome. And last but not least, and the staple here on the show is, what game are you playing now?
I know it's gonna be basic, but Minecraft. I got a kid, so I got it. The best thing is, okay, here's what you all should do: have a kid, and then play Minecraft. It's like it's the you've never experienced gaming until you had somebody explain to you all the ways and all the things you can do with netherite block while you're getting shot at by skeletons, and then you fall in lava, and then they tell you what you did wrong. There's no better gaming experience than that, folks. So that's my prescription. Have a kid, then play some Minecraft.
Love it. Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough for going through the Q box round, possibly maybe the fastest one right there in the but
Let's get it done. Let's do this.
Done. So awesome. Love it. All right. Now, folks, as I led in earlier with the introduction, we're here to debunk some serious myths, specifically Steam algo myths, because I mean, let's face it, it's, to this day, and understandably so, we got new devs, we got new people coming into the industry. There's so many things changing. There can be lots of confusion around this. And hey, one of the best places we can go to get discoverability, to get our game out there and everything is Steam. So understanding this is important, but also understanding the myths behind things is essential too. So Chris, to kick things off, why do so many myths about Steam's algorithm persist, and why do you think it makes them so easy for indie devs to believe?
Well, okay, so you know how like conspiracy theories, like if you believe in conspiracy theories or whatever, who knows? It turns out the psychologists look at it and like the people that are really into like conspiracy theories, like, oh, who killed GFK, all that kind of business. It's just because they're like, they're worried about the world, and that's one way that being worried manifests yourself, is you come up with the conspiracy theories or something like that. So if you help yourself out, you don't get so paranoid. If you help yourself mentally, don't get so stressed out. The conspiracy theories kind of go away. That's my general theory. But so people are worried about their games, like they're spending all this time and money marketing their game, and they're worried, is my game going to go out there? And so you start to look for connections, kind of like clouds. You're like, that cloud looks like a moose. That cloud looks like JFK, whatever. When you're doing that, you could see in the algorithm these little like mysterious clouds. And so people are worried about their game, which causes, as we know, conspiracy theories. And so people have conspiracy theories about games, and they look up these things. And so they say, oh, I'm worried about my game. And that manifests itself in a conspiracy theory about how the Steam algorithm works. And so it's totally understandable. I totally get it. And I've fallen for some of these too, because I'm like, oh, that looks like it's connected. But I talked to Steam. I actually know the people at Valve that are working on Steam, and sometimes I talk to them. I'm like, is this true? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, I believe them. I'm not conspiratorial. That's the one thing, Papas. Drink a Diet Coke and don't be a conspiracy theorist. So that's my general thoughts. So we're going to break through these myths because it's usually a sign of stress, just being stressed about your game. And so let's alleviate that stress, everybody. Take a deep breath, drink a Diet Coke, and
absolutely.
a Macron.
Chris, but I want to call it real quick. I think that's a really important point that you just made right there is, these theories happen and everything else. It comes out of stress. It comes out of fear. And I think that's a kind of a key takeaway sometimes too, is like, hey, look, sit back, relax, maybe drink that Diet Coke, and, try to unwind a little bit and take some time to process these things. Because, when we're in moments that are, very emotionally driven, that's where we can make mistakes, make errors, misunderstand things. And we want to avoid that. So I love that you called that out. So now let's get into some of these myths and kind of like maybe a little focus on like the Steam myth specifically and what's kind of like actually being tracked. What does, Steam really care about? So let's start with this one. Is it true that launching your Steam page without a trailer, hurts your visibility, or is it more about how players react than, let's say, the algorithm itself? What's going on here? Why is this a potential, or why is this a myth that people think that, lack of trailers are hurting your visibility?
Yeah. So, well, first off, let me just clarify. You want to launch your Steam page with a trailer. That's don't do it without it. Okay. You got to have a trailer. Okay. Now, people will be like, why, Chris? Why? I launched without a trailer and I'm not doing great. And it's like, yeah, well, that's the risk right there. No, you really do want a trailer. And but just to clarify, there's nothing in the algorithm that goes in and says, oh, trailer equals no, hide the visibility. There's nothing like that in the Steam algorithm. But this is more like a people algorithm thing where when people go to your Steam page, see, people on Steam, shoppers on Steam, they are hardened gamers. They are very intelligent shoppers. They're very knowledgeable. They know what's crap, what's shovelware, what's AI. Steam shoppers are smart. And what they're doing is they are judging everybody's game to see, is this game shovelware or AI? So they are looking at everything you do with a fine-tooth comb, laser eyesight. And if you have no trailer, that is a clue to these shoppers that, oh, I should probably be suspicious of this game. This game is probably made by a first-time dev who doesn't know what they're doing, and they're just going to make a crappy game. That is what you do not want. Even if you are a first-time dev, there's nothing wrong with that. But you need to give the impression that you are a serious dev who's done this stuff. And by having a trailer, there's nothing in the algorithm that hides your game because you don't have a trailer, but you're just doing a wrong impression. It's like if you went to a job interview wearing like a tank top with no sleeves. Sleeves mean business. If you don't have sleeves when you go to a job interview, people are going to be suspicious because you know who doesn't have sleeves? I don't know. People who are looking for a job. And so you want to look like I'm a guy who has sleeves, okay? Because sleeves mean business. So a trailer is essentially sleeves. It just says, I am a serious person.
Yeah, and I love that. And two things in particular that really, resonated with me is just, I realizing that, these shoppers are intelligent. Like, and it's not just players, folks. I'd say people as a whole have become so much. I know I had this like a couple episodes again, this similar conversation where just people as a whole are just that much more savvy with the content they consume, with the products they buy, and especially with games. So, I mean, the trailer is one thing, but I mean, I'm sure we could even go on little tiny tangents saying like the same thing with your capsule art and all this other stuff too. So love that you call out about, players. They are intelligent. It's don't think it's not that big of a deal. It's going to be for them, and then make the right impression. I think that's the biggest point right there that you called out to is just make that good impression because, you're going sleep. If you go sleeveless, I guess you might as well go home.
Sleeves. Get the sleeves. Get the sleeves, everybody. I mean, if you're going to a party, it's fun to go to a party without sleeves. That's cool, but not a job interview.
Awesome. All right. Now, here's another one. Some, devs think, they get a visibility boost, just from launching their Steam page. I mean, does this actually happen, though? I mean, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I wrote a blog post about this. This is really hard to kind of explain. So if you go to howtomarketagame.com/benchmarks, I benchmark because everybody asks, hey, I launched my Steam page. I got X number of wish lists. Is that good? I got asked that so much. I said, well, I don't make any, the way I work is I don't make any assumptions because I'm just like, I don't know what, that's just my guess, my wild ass guess. So I always do surveys. And so I did a survey out and I sent it out. And I just looked at what other games, what's the typical 2 week? I just picked a window. There's nothing special about 2 weeks. How many wish lists do you get in that 2 weeks? And so I saw a wide range of games get wide range of wish lists. And a lot of people think that sometimes games do poorly when they first announce, like they didn't do the right stuff and they got poor wish lists or something. Like in that 2 week period, maybe they got like 100 wish lists or something, which isn't great. It's not bad, but they overread the symbols. You know how I said it's like, oh, we're like looking at clouds, seeing a moose or JFK in the clouds. We're not. So there is no section on Steam. So people will blame Steam for that. They're like, oh my God, Steam is going to hide me, or, I did poorly in the announce. There's nothing with the announce. When you launch your Steam page, this is the what we call coming soon page. There's no monitoring of that. It's not like Steam says, oh, well, you didn't hit this threshold when you launched your Steam page, so we're going to hide you for the rest of your life. No, that doesn't happen. Basically, and there's no section on Steam when you launch your page where it shows up like new games on Steam or something. There's nothing like that. So there's no specific thing in Steam that boosts you. And this breaks people's brains because a lot of times we will look at the stats and there are games that do very well on Steam. Like their first 2 weeks, they get like 10,000 wish lists, which is awesome. That's in what I could say the upper tier of visibility. And they're like, well, Steam favored them. It's not that. It's just a lot of those games either did a big marketing push, like maybe their trailer got featured on Game Trailers, which is a big featuring site for trailers, or maybe they did a Reddit post that went viral. There's several things outside of Steam that drove that visibility, and that is what's doing that. But there is nothing in the Steam algorithm that says, let's try out this Steam page to see if it works. There's nothing, folks. I'm serious. There is nothing there. This is one of those like trying to debunk the JFK assassination myth. It's like, I'm serious, folks. There's nothing there. But people like want to stress out like, oh my God, I announce my game and nothing happened? I must be like blackmailed by the algorithm. I must be like blacklisted by it. I've got a black flag on my name. There's nothing there. There's no visibility associated with the launch of your Steam page. Now, there are specific widgets when you launch your demo. There's something called new and trending free. That is a definite algorithm thing where if you get on the right list, they'll put you on the front page of Steam for your demo, and it's awesome. When you launch your page, when you launch your game full for sale, there's popular upcoming, new and trending. Those are definite algorithm things, but there's no equivalent when you launch your Steam page. And I say this because you shouldn't be afraid to launch your Steam page, and you shouldn't feel bad if it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You have time to fix it, and there's nothing there holding you back. So launch that Steam page. If it's your first game, it probably will suck, and it won't do very well. That's the nature. You got to release more games, folks. Kids, make lots of games. Don't make a dream game first game, because your first Steam page just will not do great. That's the thing. And it's nothing to do with the algorithm. It's just because nobody knows about you and you have no previous games. And one other side thing about this is I found that the people who have the highest wish list earned when they launched their Steam page were developers that had previous games, because their previous games shuttled traffic to their new game. And that's what it is. Like, I guess technically that's a Steam algorithm, because you could see one page and then below the page, at the bottom of the page, it says more like this or from the same developer. Yes, that drove traffic. But the answer is make more games. So that's great.
Yeah,
Next myth. Oh,
well, I want to say too, I mean, important thing there, folks, I think it just comes down to like setting those expectations and having this understanding. Like if it does well, it's because it's been acted on, like, let's say other efforts, other pushes that you're making for marketing. And if it doesn't, it's okay. There's time to recover. But again, set those expectations. First game might not get the best results, and understandably so, as you just, wrapped up there. And then also for games that do well, there is a strong correlation. Sounds like that. It's because they've already had past titles and stuff as well too. They already have a community, they have a following of some sort, and then they're funneling that traffic right into that new thing. They're probably all those other channels they're sharing about. Lots of reasons why that happened, but like Chris said, no blacklist. All right, next. Many believe that Steam gives you, we were just talking about boost, but here's another a boost that we think about is like, after 10 reviews, or let's say even certain revenue milestones that you get this boost. Are those really real thresholds that, Steam likes to give us from their algorithm, or?
yeah. So if you search my blog for 10 reviews, just search 10 reviews, you'll find this blog post. I did this blog post because I so many devs, when you hit 10 reviews, the Steam algorithm gives you a little thumb. That, like, on the reviews, it gives you a percentage. It'll say like 98% positive reviews and a little thumbs up if they're over positive. And if they're below mixed, it's a thumbs down. And that only occurs after you get 10 reviews. And we can watch the stats. Like, we can look at your traffic to your Steam page. And the second you hit 10 reviews, you get a spike in traffic. And I like, if you look at that blog post, search 10 reviews on my website, I collected graphs. I love collecting these graphs. And you could see the graph just spikes up like a stalactite the moment you hit. Actually, it's stalagmite because it's coming from the graph.
I was going to say, I was wondering. I don't
Stalagmite, folks. Okay. So anyway, so it shoots up like a stalagmite. And it is when they hit 10 reviews. And I have talked to Valve about this. I was like, what's with the 10 reviews? Is it because it shows on the discovery queue? And they go, there's none. There is none. And I'm like, okay. I'm not a conspiracy theorist because I'm not an afraid person. I'm a very brave person. This is the only conspiracy theory I kind of have, is like, I think there is something there, but here's the reason is, so the Steam algorithm is trying to hide shovelware, and shovelware and AI generated games never hit 10 reviews. And so what they're doing is they're hiding all games that don't hit 10 reviews. So basically it does give you some visibility, but what Valve said is like, in the end of it, it's minor. And so this is what I'm saying to folks is, Valve claims there's nowhere in the algorithm that says less than 10 do nothing. If there is 10, do something. They say that maybe it's just that shoppers have been tuned in to ignore games that don't have the little thumbs up or the little thumbs down or the percent positive. Because when you search games, it just shows up as like a blank space next to your reviews. And maybe players and Steam shoppers have just been trained to ignore those type of games. again, this is kind of like a people algorithm where people are just like, I'll just ignore any game that doesn't have a little thumbs up or thumbs down next to it. But the other thing that I'm thinking is like maybe Steam does something, but in the grand scheme of things, and this is in general, folks, if you are having a hard time getting to 10 reviews, you're kind of screwed anyway. And that's, I think, what Valve is trying to tell us, like, trying to tell me is like, Chris, this is not them. This is me reading between the lines. I think what they're telling me is, Chris, maybe if there is some sort of piece in the code that says if 10 reviews give visibility, it is so minor compared to what you need in order to succeed. Because to succeed on Steam, folks, and I'll tell you, Steam is built on looking at tiny spikes in visibility. And if it sees in an appropriate amount of visibility, it will send you to the moon. They will just like blast your game off, put you on the front page, all this stuff. That's why you pay the 30% to Steam. If you are having a hard time getting to 10 reviews, you don't have that super boost. And it's just not, it's not going well. Okay. The games that I see that do well will get like 100 reviews in a day. It is very hard. And so that's what Valve is kind of saying with this 10 reviews thing is like, yeah, maybe, but if you're tracking the moment you flip over to 10 reviews, you're kind of screwed anyway, because the games that do well hit 10 reviews like within the first 5 minutes. So that's basically how it works.
Yeah, no, and I like that take too, and further understanding, because it's like, you know, yeah, there's some detailed stuff, but like just clearly coming out and stating like, hey, look, this is really nominal, and what it really comes down to is, you know, just this. So just keeping things clear, right, is super helpful in understanding these things, because, you know, we can't keep making these assumptions about this stuff, because if we do, it's just going to put us in the wrong direction. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, to go on to some more here, I know we talked about this a little bit, but I want to kind of dive in a little bit more, because look, we know, and you know, we understand about how there is not really a boost, an algo boost, essentially with, you know, Steam when it comes to, you know, launching your page, your coming soon page and stuff. But let's, you know, we start off slow, and let's say even for after a while, we are starting off slow, and there's that feeling or fear that, this is going to be it. Well, we're not going to ever, I never see more than, you know, 5 wish lists a day, or like, so am I now hurt permanently? It's like, what, like, how is this far from the truth? And how can we avoid, I guess, getting out of that belief, that negative belief?
Yeah. So, well, okay. It's a little nuanced. Okay. So here's the deal. This is the basic underlying thesis of Steam and the algorithm is there is no permanent black mark on your game. So a lot of people think if I launch poorly, if I launch my Steam page, announce my game, launch my Steam page, and I don't get enough wish lists, I get a black mark on Steam, and they'll hide me forever. And that's not true. Even after we'll kind of talk about this, but after you've gone on sale, there is no algorithm black mark. Okay. It just doesn't happen. What Valve and the Steam algorithm is doing is they're looking for interest. So if you spike your wish lists, like you get like 1,000, 3,000 wish lists. And I did a study where I looked and I asked devs, there's this thing called the discovery queue. And that's kind of the way the Steam algorithm, one of the ways Steam algorithm pushes your game up is this thing called discovery queue. And so I did a survey. You can look it up. Just search my blog for discovery queue. I've written like 3 blogs on it. And we have found if you get 1,000 to 3,000 wish lists, somewhere in there, closer on the 3,000 side, within a 2-week period, that is very impressive to the Steam algorithm. They go, hello, look at this hot stuff. And usually what happens is it's usually a streamer that does this. Either a streamer or maybe you went viral on Reddit or something. But 3,000 in a short period of time, 2 weeks, typically will trigger the Steam algorithm to say, this is a real game. And you'll see the Steam algorithm will respond by doing the daily deal, or I mean, not daily deal, the discovery queue. They'll put you in the discovery queue sometimes, not all the time. But your baseline will also be higher. And I think that is Steam going, oh, we've got a live one here, because AI and shovelware games do not get 3,000 wishlist spikes because nobody's going to cover that game. Like no journalist is going to be like, oh, an interesting new shovelware game. Interesting. So that's how the Steam algorithm filters out shovelware. But if you prove that you're not shovelware by getting 3,000 wishlists in a short period of time, like 2 weeks, Valve's like, yeah. And then they give you visibility. That's the main thing. And that can happen at any time. Anytime they'll give you a shot. So there is no permanent records. We're not like in school, kids. Like if you get a D on your first test, it's not
That's
like
it.
your grades are screwed. It's any time. As long as you get an A, kids, at any time, Steam will put you in the valedictorian booth.
Yeah. So
Is it a booth? It's not a booth. It's like just a stage.
Stage.
Valedictorian. You get to speak behind
Platform.
the podium.
You
Yeah.
get your soapbox.
You're gonna give a talk where you quote Dr. Seuss. I don't know why the valedictorians, they always go, Dr. Seuss once said. I don't know. Valedictorians always quote Dr. Seuss in their valedictorian speech. I don't know. I think my valedictorian in my house. I was not valedictorian. I was just like solid B student. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, where was I going? Where am I going?
It's all
JFK.
good. Yeah, no, but you know what? I mean, I love that because again, it just reiterates, another point you made too, and I think this is an important thing for a lot of people to kind of take away and think about is these things. It's like don't worry about the fear behind it. Don't like these myths and stuff. But I mean, know the facts, and that is, it's a lot of signals in a short period of time. Like I said, like a 2-week window or whatever and stuff. And yeah, maybe you are sending lots of signals and getting lots of wish lists, but they're not hitting that threshold. It's okay. I think if you have this understanding of this is what's required, then it can really help you inform decisions on, hey, what activities I'm doing so I can do whatever possible to help send those signals to Steam from players. And then, see if we can hit that notch and everything, because again, it's about knowing that it's about lots of signals in a short period of time. And actually, as you were saying that, Chris, I was visualizing, like, out of all the times I went to like SteamDB and everything, where if you're looking at, or even other Steam accounts that I have access to, you see these spikes and they go up for a bit, like you were saying, to the like stalagmites or whatever, and then they go down for a bit and then they go up. It's because in that period of time, it's those signals that are happening. I know what you're talking about is a little bit different, but that's just something that painted picture in my mind when you're saying, and it makes sense. Like I've seen it too. What you're calling out makes complete sense. So know that. Stay with the facts. Lots of signals, short amount of time. Whatever you can do to make that happen, awesome.
Wait, I want to clarify one thing about signals. I want to be specific here, folks.
Do it.
People are like, well, how do I get a signal? Let me tell you how to get signals, folks. Okay. Get a demo out. You got to make a demo. Everybody needs to make a demo. Everybody. Even if your game's a linear narrative game. Okay. And here's how you get signals. Here's how to get those wish lists. Okay. You have to make that demo, give it to streamers. Streamers are the number one way. The other one that might work, and it really only happens if your game is really, 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 really pretty. Like if you have a beautiful 3D artist who can make beautiful art. I mean, they could be an ugly 3D artist, but as long as their art is beautiful, they make it, they post it on Reddit or TikTok. Those have enough, there's enough momentum from those, and it has to be r/gaming or r/games. Either one of those, r/PC Master Race, sometimes those work. If your game and your trailer is really good, it can do that. IGN, getting your trailer on IGN or Game Trailers, getting your trailer covered by Gaming Bible. It's a sub branch of Lad Bible. That can do it. Sometimes getting into a festival, but festivals have many other games. So even if you do well in that festival, and these are online festivals, I tracked howtomarketagame.com/festivals. Those games are usually ranked because everybody else is getting a lot of wish lists. So you don't usually get that same bounce from it's still good. You get a lot of wish lists being in a festival, but you don't get that outsized boost that you get from a streamer playing your demo, trailers covered by Game Trailer, IGN, or getting covered by a TikTok influencer or getting on Reddit. That's what it takes, folks. Social media doesn't typically work. It's not that stuff. It is those that I list. That's how you get that signal. So you got to do those things. Do them and drink a Diet Coke.
Yeah, just add that to the mix. Speaking of mix, you've said before, mixed reviews or maybe not. I'm just trying to think. I might be like mixing things here because I have read a bunch of your blog posts and stuff. But mixed reviews, don't hurt visibility on Steam side, but it seems that they might. But is this something that's more influenced by player behavior? Like, is there? Let's unpack this a bit, because I know some people really believe that, it's mixed, then I'm penalized now.
Yeah, so the Steam algorithm only hides you if you are below mixed, and that's, I think it's called like mostly negative, or I never remember the actual terms they use, but it's like negative, mostly negative. They both sound bad. Then if it's negatives, any of the negatives, Steam actually does hide you. The algorithm actually like hides your game. If it's mixed, there's nowhere in the Steam algorithm that actually hides you. Okay. I believe them. This is, again, not a JFK conspiracy theory. This is actually real. The algorithm does not hide you, but the people hide you. The people algorithm. So if they see your game in a list and they see a little, when it's mixed, it turns into like a little, it's like either a tilde or a yellow line. It's something, it's like this weird icon. I think people, and I've talked to devs and they're like, when I see my game, some of their games hover between positive and mixed, and they can see when it dips into the mixed territory, their sales go down. And that's totally, I'm not doubting them, but what that is people. When people see that little tilde and it says mix next to it, they'll be like, oh, wait, that's the people algorithm deciding not to buy you. That's not the Steam algorithm doing it. And so it's like, don't blame Steam, I guess. Don't blame Valve. It's blame the people. Blame people. They're the ones not buying your game. So I guess, I mean, but here's the thing. It's like, no matter what it is, don't get mixed. And then two, don't just blame people is what I'm saying. That's right. Let's end on there. Papas, blame people.
Well, as you're saying that too, and I was trying to make a comment before of something else you shared as well relating to reviews and everything else. I mean, think about it, folks. Like, how do you go to Amazon and buy things, right? Or how do you like rate things? And there's these star systems, right? And if anything's like a 1 or a 2, are you going to spend the time to look at that thing? More likely than not, probably not. You're not going to. I mean, why waste the effort and stuff? It's the same type of like, I don't know, basic psychology here when people are seeing mixed stuff. And another way to look at it too is like, people's time, money, it's all valuable to them. And when they see something that's mixed, they don't want to necessarily go through all the detailed reviews and see if it really aligns with them. Maybe they were super excited about the game and they will, but I would say generally, no, they see that's an indicator and they're just going to bounce. So when it comes to that type of stuff, just really think like, yeah, don't get mixed. But how do you do that? Well, that's a very, very different conversation for another time. But yeah, exactly. And, another myth here, this is a big one. I know important one for a lot of people is, a lot of devs panic after, a tough launch and feel like it's over. But let me ask you this, Chris, is it really possible to recover visibility and sales down the line after what we maybe call a bad, poor, or failed launch? And if so, I mean, what does that actually take, and is it worth it?
Actually, it is over. It's
over.
No, it is. And here's the thing. It's like, I know we all want to be like, oh, just give it your good old try. Just try harder and you'll do it, kiddo. I'm sorry, folks. Like, if your launch is poor, it's not going to happen. And I hate to say it. And this is what I did some analysis last year. If you look at my blog, I just search, I think it was like, what the hell happened in 2024? No, I think it's called So You're Saying There's a Chance. I just recently posted it. I went back to all the games that were released in 2024, and I looked at the games that succeeded. And I consider succeeded as getting 1,000 reviews, right? And for a number of reasons, that's success. That means the Steam algorithm pushed you. The Steam algorithm was like, this game's good, let's push it. Is to get to 1,000 reviews, okay? And I looked at all the games that got 1,000 reviews. And about 75% of them did it within 3 months. Like, when Steam likes you, they love you and they push you so hard, so fast. You don't grind up to 1,000 reviews. The next thing, it took 6 months. There were, I think it's like 15% of games get there in 6 months. I found one game that got to 1,000 reviews after having a launch of like 30 reviews in the first like 3 months. Okay. We all like to say like, oh yeah, well, Among Us did really well and they had a poor sales at the beginning. It just doesn't happen. I found one game that released last year that had soft sales in the first 3 months and then went on to get to 1,000 reviews. It was called Beltmatic. You can look it up, Beltmatic. It just doesn't happen, folks. And here's the thing. And now this is the algorithm. Like, this is the people versus the Steam algorithm here. If you go, well, then people are like, well, that's the Steam algorithm hiding good games. Okay, if you go and you talk to Steam about this, they'll say, and you watch some of their talks or read their things, they actually do not care about your launch sales. They actually don't really. And that's how Among Us pulled it off. Is like their sales were poor. And then what happened was, and it's a long line of things, but they got featured on itch.io. Then Korean streamers found them. Then they did daily deals and all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then Among Us took off like a year later after their initial launch. That's one case. Okay. That is one case. And then the Steam algorithm remember how I said the stalagmites, when they see that, Steam's like, oh, you're a good game. We'll show you visibility. Okay. That's what it takes. However, folks, if you've launched your game, and you've done a good job marketing, and then I mean like reaching out to streamers, entering to festivals, getting a lot of wish lists. If you've done that, and even after you launched, you didn't get sales, there really aren't that many options left. Like you've done the marketing, and whatever you put out there and the marketing you did, the audience just didn't like it. This is the hard truth, folks. I'm going to be honest with you. Like if you did everything, you reached out to streamers, like, and I mean about 300 streamers, you've entered festivals, you put out a demo, and even after all that, everybody, the people, let's blame the people again. If the people said, not too into it, that's a sign. That's the sign, folks. And that's the people algorithm going collectively, next. And that's hard to hear. And so Beltmatic, I look back at what Beltmatic did. The problem was that Beltmatic actually didn't market their game. They launched with like 100 wish lists, which is very low. You don't do that. You should always launch with about 7,000. So they didn't market, and they didn't seem to do streamers. They didn't reach out to streams, from what I can tell. It wasn't until about 6 months later, 3 to 6 months later, Real Civil Engineer, who's like one of the biggest streamers, just happened to find Beltmatic, and he played the game. And by him playing the game, it triggered a bunch of other streamers to play the game, and that is what propelled it. So that's what I'm saying is like, if you market it hard and the collective people, said, then that's a sign. But what happened with Beltmatic was they never marketed. So the people didn't vote. The people hadn't done their like, yet. But so because it did that, it looked like he pulled a rabbit out of his hat, the Beltmatic creator, and did it later, but it wasn't. It was because it wasn't discovered. It was like Schrodinger's cat. They hadn't opened the box yet, and they didn't see if there was a live cat or a dead cat yet. And that's the case. That's what it is. So if you did everything like what I recommend, which is those things like reach out to streamers, enter festivals, give your trailer to game trailers. If you do all that before launch and nothing happens, like nobody likes it, move on to the second game. It's hard, folks. I'm going to be honest. It's just not going to happen. So go to your second game as fast as you can. Repurpose your code, build from the ground up on top of that thing. We all just need to make more games. Everybody should make more games. So that's my advice. It's realistic, but optimistic.
Yeah. And you know what? I really like that distinction too, because I've heard it in my own circles too, where people are always like, oh, there's no chance and stuff and all this. And I mean, the reality is, folks, is like, yeah, if you put in the work and effort and nothing comes out of it, just that's that hard lesson, move on. And there are going to be, but still, even in the circumstances you just outlined, and I think, what was it, what was that game?
Beltmatic.
I mean, that's a great example right there too. But I mean, of the two, I mean, you could only there's only two that ever come up among us and Beltmatic, right? So still, I think there's something said there that it is still a challenge, and it's kind of like that, right?
It's not a challenge. It's impossible.
Okay. Thank you. So, but again, like you said too, be realistic. And when we have this information, I mean, hey, look, if you really, really want to go do it, hey, that's on you. But you're hearing it here, folks, that you're going to be better off just making other games. Why? Because you use those learning experiences, you apply it to the next project, you can make that faster, you get to market faster, then, whatever happens, you get to the next game. And then you're building assets, right, over time. And those assets are creating value for you, for your company and everything else. And you know, that you just got to do that. So sometimes that's the hard lessons of game dev, but hey, that's what we signed up for. That's what we're passionate about this, but you know, you can't just, it's not like, you know, unicorns and roses every day. We got to get ourselves in the mud sometimes or whatever else. It's just how it is. So, well, Chris, I know we're coming on time here, and man, this has been great, exciting, fun. Can't thank you enough. But before we depart, first, I know you have something awesome going on that I believe at the time of this going out is happening now. So please share what this is so people can check it out, in addition to all the other awesome stuff you have at your site.
Yeah, so I am running a conference right now, a virtual conference. You know, Pappas and I just came back from GDC. GDC, you got to fly out there. You got to get a hotel room. It sucks. You gotta network. That sucks. Networking sucks. You gotta do all that stuff. You might get COVID. All that stuff happens. You know what's better? Staying home. So I run a conference I call Staying Inside. You don't leave. You just You just watch this conference. It's virtual. It's like 1 to 2 talks a day. I have 5 speakers plus myself, and you watch it, and it's going on right now. You watch it live. These are industry experts. I've got Thomas Bedeau. He specializes in Kickstarter, like how to do Kickstarter, how to get money from that. Clara Sia, she used to work for Devolver. She used to get streamers. Like I say, the number one way is to get streamers. So how do we get streamers? I'm going to talk to Clara Sia. She's on there. So these are all live conferences, live virtually. So in other words, like live, and you can ask a question and then that person responds. I'm going to do Steam page reviews. So you submit your Steam page. I'll tell you what's wrong with it. Not everybody. You got to submit. And I usually get a lot of responses, and I pick the best examples of common problems I see. So if you want to do that, sign up. You go to howtomarketagame.com/conference, just howtomarketagame.com/conference. It's called the Inside Conference for 2025. I'm running a deal on it. So if you get it right away, it's cheaper. Once the conference is over and you buy it, it's going to be more expensive. So go over there right now, howtomarketagame.com/conference.
Awesome. Well, folks, we will make sure to put the conference link down there in the show notes, but we'll also put in a few others too that Chris mentioned, especially how to market a game. But that's going to be the key place to get everything. But specifically for that conference, we will make sure that link is there. So check it out. Sounds like some great speakers and everything else. In fact, I know they're great speakers, so highly recommend it. Chris, really can't thank you enough for really debunking these myths and diving in a bit deeper on them, because this is just going to provide so much more clarity and help for a lot of people. So really appreciate you being here today and sharing that at a deeper level.
Thank you. I got to say, your interviews are the best put together. I get, like, it is so organized. If you don't know, Pappas is like the most organized guy. Like I get, it is like so well organized. I do a lot of these like interviews. I'm always like, what's going on? Where do I show up? Pappas's has like everything's perfect. So Pappas, I think that goes to say just like how good of a guy you are and like how organized you are. So really, you're good. You're good people.
Greatly appreciate it, Chris. And you know what? It's great to hear that and to pair up with people like you, so we can just do what we can to help this community out that we both love so much. So you guys keep making games, right, Chris?
Just make more games. Your first one's going to suck. Your first one will suck. Your second one will still suck. Your third one, maybe a little bit better. That's my final word.
So keep making them. All right.
Make them.
Thank you, everybody. And Chris, it's been a pleasure once again.
Oh, all right. Great talking to you, Pappas.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode of Indie Game Movement. I'm Andrew Pappas, your host, and the show's producer is Mustafa Price. Show notes for this episode can be found by visiting rengenmarketing.com, the number episode of the show. Rengen Marketing is a consulting marketing company that helps indie devs with their marketing efforts. Whether you need guidance with your game's marketing strategy or could use a free marketing plan template, then please visit www.rengenmarketing.com and take action. A special thanks to Dakota Saw for Season 2's opening theme and Melissa Gellis for the new logo design. And as always, thanks for being such great listeners, and we'll see you next time on Indie Game Movement.